use that same time card energy.
Right.
Put that time card in. You got to use that
what
same.
Does that do?
Yeah, we got to put that same energy into this vote right now, man. Can I come pick it up? And I think that'll do it, because when you ready to get your check, or you worked your hours, and you're not gonna wait to the last minute, you're not gonna let the clock pass you up, you're gonna get it done.
Welcome to Unmuted, a powerful conversation where no topics are off limits and no voices are muted. Yahoo Life amplifies the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And in today's episode, we discuss how we can protect voting rights for all of us. Hi, I'm Tatiana. Today, we will be discussing how we can protect voting rights for people of color as we continue our fight to be heard. Joining us today, we have Deon Taylor and Roxane Avent Taylor, founders of Woke.Vote. Henry Muñoz, founder of Momento, Latino, and co-founder of Latino Victory and the Dream.us. And lastly, Torrey Smith, two-time Super Bowl champion and host of Trending Thoughts and an active member of the Players Coalition. Firstly, I just want to thank all of you all for being here. I'm going to start at the first question, opening up the floor to anyone who wants to answer, this is a very loaded question. For our viewers who may not know the ins and outs of voter suppression, why isn't the right to vote enough to ultimately have our ballot counted? And what else goes into this, regardless of legal protection?
At this time, I believe, one of the biggest tricks that has been played on us as Black and brown people over the course of time is that our vote doesn't count. If your vote didn't count, then they wouldn't be doing all the things that they're doing to us right now for your vote to not make it, right? So moving mailboxes, taking out machines, fighting every day on the news about mail-in ballots. I'll just go on record as saying that I personally believe this is the most important voting time we've probably had in the last 50 years. Based on the fact that when you really understand, it looks like a bunch of clouded smoke up at the top, but if you really dive through the smoke and look, you'll understand, man, it's changing the Senate, it's changing the judges, it's changing everything that you would need to have happen, even if you had a new president in office. So we got to actually get in here and unspell the myth that your vote doesn't count and change that immediately.
And I agree with that. That's been my experience in talking with people who may not have voted in the past. They thought their vote doesn't matter. And well, you have to take the time and kind of help to educate them. Well, you care about the criminal justice system, right? Or how laws and how they impact your family. Well, who are the folks that are in the position to create those laws or to help create that change? And that's been something I've been talking to people about, especially now I have a passion for criminal justice reform, and talking with people who've been incarcerated or experienced that before. In some states, in the state where I'm from being one of them, Virginia, if you're a person that has the label of being a convicted felon, you can't vote. Well, why would they take away that if it wasn't powerful, right? And so if they take away everything else, you can't live in certain neighborhoods, you can't get certain loans, right? Those are powerful things. Why is voting included in that? It matters. So we have to continue to be active in our role as citizens.
To your point too, I think the more that the youth or, the Gen Z millennials understand that the localized voting for them is probably where they should start, and maybe it'll make more sense for them to know their vote counts, because every day in your community, whether it's the education component, the schools, your representation locally is what you experience every single day and looking around you, right? And so when they see those changes and experience what those positions means, I think the presidential election will make more sense to them, and they'll understand, okay, maybe my vote does count. You know what I mean? Because they're seeing change locally in their community. And that's where it starts, because a lot of people don't go maybe 3 to 5 miles north, south, east, or west of their community, where they're from. They don't leave the neighborhood, so starting to see the change locally, I think will engage them more, and help them understand more that it really does count.
I think we've seen in 2016, for example, how powerful organizing and being on the ground and the grassroots campaigns are to engage young voters. We saw a 16% increase in millennial voting, which was unheard of. It was unprecedented. But we've seen a lot of very intentional acts to strip people away of that right. Can you all just kind of explain a little bit about how you are trying to get the youth to come out and vote this November?
So I come from Gary, Indiana. Roxane comes from Baltimore. When you really understand violence, you really understand, a way of life. And what I'm going to call most kids like us, when we were younger, you spend half your life in survival mode. So when you get back into the communities, now, when you've been enlightened and you're out of survival mode and you actually got money and you got a house to live in and you actually could breathe and sit back and look and be like, damn, okay, that's why I was affected that way. All this is localized voting. How come they keep opening strip clubs and liquor stores around the corner from where my kids go to school at? That's all voting. We're a little older now, but watching the kids actually get it before the adults with the George Floyd thing, they took to the streets. They rallied, they rumbled, they pushed the doors down. It didn't matter what color they were, it didn't matter what they was on at that time, it didn't matter what TikTok they was making. They just knew this was wrong. So now when you get that type of activity from the youth, from the kids, our job now is to go educate them on how do you actually add upon that. We gotta get these kids that was out there fighting, be like, yo, y'all gotta keep on it and do it this way. So we go through the youth for localized voting and we kind of hit them in the head with like your community. Let's look at your community first and let you understand you can change voting this way. Change things in your community by voting for this stuff locally.
Yeah, just bridging that gap between the community and those elected officials, and really utilizing the Be Woke platform. So we're trying to utilize these influencers to talk to them and tell them how important it is, really getting in the streets, because it's not fun to talk about politics. They don't care about it. So really integrating the fun things that they're checking for all the time, into these different call to actions, having the local artists paint murals in their town and like honoring them for that, right? Bringing their artists to the streets and being able to show, okay, what does voting represent to you? Paint a mural on the wall. Just little things like that to engage them so it makes it fun for them. And so from now through the election, we have quite a bit of on-the-ground activations and online digital marketing tools and contests that we're doing to engage them.
I think culture is important. I think you also can't be what you can't see. And when I started Latino Victory, there were 2% of the elected officials in this country looked like me and shared my cultural identity. So we've worked very hard over the course of the last few years to elect a new generation of Latino leaders around the country. Everyone from the first Latina elected to the US Senate, the first Latina Congresswomen from Texas, if you can believe that, school board members, state house members who are making progress. People don't vote not because they don't just feel like their vote doesn't matter. It's because their lives don't change. And we've got to recognize that in this year, the only cure for COVID-19 is to vote. It's hard. I spent 6.5 years of my life working with President Obama. We understood that you had to explain that it's the local impact, for example, of climate change that is affecting your life. Harder to understand. What impact can I have on climate change? But this next generation of citizens, and it's hard to vote. You've got to go register. You've got to go find your polling place. It's not just posting on Instagram or Twitter. You've got to actually do something. This generation, it's in their hands whether we survive, whether humanity survives. And it's very clear who has their best interests at heart and who doesn't. So we need to go that extra mile. We need to let people know that we have their backs. We need to educate them about the tools that they need to vote, because young people can determine the future of this country.
This generation is ready to fight. Like you said, they've been in the streets, they've been very vocal about it. Well, part of arming yourself is, besides just knowledge, is that like you have to have actionable steps and actionable items. Well, voting is one of those things. So when you talk to them, you tell them like, hey, be a part of the solution. Your voice was heard. Now what can you do? Like, you got the people's attention who are in power. Now this is your way to make sure that the people that you want have a seat. So it's really just breaking it down to them and letting them know like you are in control, and we just have to continue that process.
efforts and whatever you all are doing as far as engaging the younger vote. It's so crucial and vital right now, but it's also really important to engage the older vote too, because we have the older generations who feel like my time is done. Like, how are we engaging the older generation as well?
In the Latino community, it's moms, it's Latinas who run our families, and they're the people who have to say to their children and their grandchildren, how much is at stake in this election? I mean, our people on this show today, we're the people who are dying, we're the people who are getting sick, we're the people who are either losing our jobs or continue to go to work without protection, we're the people who don't have Wi-Fi, we're the people whose children need a future. So we're reaching out to moms across this country. There's organizations called She Se Puede and another that is talking about voting like a madre, because only a mother knows how to motivate her children and her family about what is at stake. And there's a lot at stake in this election, no question about it. We cannot leave any vote. This community, the community of color, cannot leave one vote on the table. We cannot afford to be lulled into not being motivated or disengaged.
And we've all mentioned about voter suppression laws, poll taxes, literacy tests, or any other discriminatory state voting laws that prevent Black and brown people from coming out to the polls and voting. Can you all just talk about what to do if someone feels like they are being discriminated against? Because we talk a lot about people feeling scared to vote. But what about when they actually go out to these poll sites and they feel like they can't vote? What should they do then?
We live in a society now where someone can tell you right now, like, I've been discriminated against. This happened to me. And there's a portion of this country that's like, no, it didn't. like that's not happening. People, that's fake news or whatever it may be. Like, no, it's real. And we saw it in Kentucky. Things are happening. Like, you can't keep turning a blind eye to things. Like, one of the best, worst things that we have is ourselves. And it's the ability for all of us. It gives us the ability to communicate. It gives us the ability to inform and to educate. So when you see things that are happening in your town, in your community, be vocal about it. Because the same way we talked about educating people on things that their perception that they have from the past, this is something that's happening right now, and it may be able to get people, excite them, and make them want to go out and be a part of the problem, because things are happening right there in your hometown, but oftentimes we're blind to it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. We're so active in, not being afraid to say what we feel and do what we want to do anywhere on social media. I feel like just speak up and say I'm scared or I don't know how to. And there's so many outlets that could actually help you understand how to go vote. But I would also add to that one of the biggest things that I believe we're having a problem with right now is self-sabotaging. And when you begin to get celebrities to go on Instagram with 25, 30, 45, 50 million followers and say, we're not voting unless you give me something, 30 days before the election, I go like, what are you doing? Because yeah, I agree with you. You want to actually hold someone accountable and get what you need to get. But 30 days, when we've been sitting here 3 years and 11 months, and you ain't had one thing to say, and now what you're doing is you're distracting young voters and older voters that have in their mind, I'm going to vote because I don't like what's going on. Now you tell them, hold up, we got to ask for something first. Well, who's going to be the person that's going to go ask? And how do we know you want what I want?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now, all it becomes is another wave that we got to get through, because like Roxane said earlier, people follow. So all of a sudden, if you like, oh, I like him, I like what he stands for, I like his music, now you like, yeah, what we gonna get? So now you sit back and now you didn't miss the election again, because now you done went with the what we gonna get, on top of they both bad people, on top of Kamala Harris ain't black enough, on top of, so we self-sabotage. We need to be preparing. If you don't like either of these people that are running right now, guess what? Your job is to go endorse someone. It's like the NBA and NFL. We start watching kids in the 9th, 10th grade. So you got to go right now and be like, yeah, okay, I'm putting my money on him because I like what he's saying, I like what he's standing for. And we have to get into politics that way. But jumping in 30 days before an election and telling the mass what we gonna get, you can't do it that way. So I'm just saying we can't divide the vote at this time, because this is about humanity right now. When you have someone in the White House, look, in the last 3 years, we've never lived in a world like this. I've never seen in my life, man, we go outside, people flying Confederate flags. Up and down the street, they're wearing Confederate flags to the high schools, to the elementary schools. That means you got a problem. So for me, I'm like, we got to vote out hate, and then we can get our marbles together and figure out now, since we all woke up, who do we want for 2024? How do we want to change legislation? How do we want to change judges? How do we want to change the Senate? That's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
The beauty that has kind of been blossomed from this terrible and tragic moment right now in our history is that this hatred has empowered other communities of color to get out and vote. There's been countless surveys and polls that have shown that Latino communities, that Asian communities that once felt before that their vote didn't matter, now know this is a life or death situation for many people, for many communities outside of just the Black community, for queer communities too. All types of people are now feeling so empowered to vote. But the thing that is at the top of everyone's mind right now is this mail-in ballot situation. A lot of people don't understand what's really going on, if their votes are going to count. Can you all just talk a little bit about maybe what tools you're using to empower people to actually take these mail-in votes and cast them, even if they don't feel like they may or may not count in this upcoming election in November?
I mean, they're going to count. Here's what I would say. I love the concept. I love speak up, right? I think for a lot of my life, I've been waiting for people to lead us, right? Where's your hero? Where is it going to come from? This next presidential candidate to lead us, and we need to lead ourselves. I mean, this is a moment where nobody's going to lead us. We need to lead ourselves. So I can tell you that we formed a coalition called Momento Latino. We're producing content. We're giving information to 130 national organizations across the country to make sure that when people try and steal your vote, and they will, you need to only listen to the President of the United States and know that even if you vote him out of office, he's still going to try and stay in office, that you can't let people do that. So speak up, reach out for help, ask about the process of mail-in vote, because it's new in many places. In some states, like the state of Texas, they're not even going to allow it. And vote like your life depends on it. And pull yourself together with one unified voice. In many ways, I think that's what this is about. I mean, if you think about the people that we represent on this show, the African American community, the Latino community, the Asian American community, it's like somebody has convinced us that the American dream isn't big enough for all of us. And that is not true. And we need to act like it is and vote like it is, and things will be fine. They will. We'll restore order to this country.
For me, one of my keys to living a peaceful life is controlling what I can control. So I would tell anyone, well, all you can do is control your vote. You doing your job. Yeah. You can't go off conspiracy theories that someone's gonna kidnap your ballot. You gotta believe that your ballot's gonna be there. And for me personally, I know I plan on going in person if I can, but I'm prepared. I for sure requested my absentee ballot just in case. You have to be ready for any circumstance, because things can change. We're literally living in the middle of a pandemic. So I would just say, be at peace knowing that you did your part. All you can do is, again, just control what you can control, go out and vote, and believe that the process will play out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both you guys. I mean, that's what we're doing, the same thing, just trying to educate, make sure everybody knows when their deadlines are. And the sooner the better. Don't wait. Don't wait to the last minute. Once you get registered, once you get your absentee, send it in. You know what I mean? Send it in, get it in. It's gonna count, like you said. Even if it's postmarked that day, it's gonna count. But they are gonna create that confusion, and they want that confusion, again, just to create distraction from voting and not feel so confident about it. So I think everybody, what they're doing is we got to just keep doing that. Be vocal, educate people, make sure your friend knows, hey, today's the deadline. Did you do your registration? Did you do A, B, and C to set yourself up to get your vote in? I mean, I've been doing mail-in voting for the last, I don't even know how many years. You know what I mean? But now it's a thing. Now it's a thing because we're in the middle of a pandemic where it's a normal process, and people need to understand that it's a normal process. It's seamless every single year. And so be confident that it's going to be the same this year and get your stuff done, you know?
Yeah, I would just add to finish it up and say, use that same time card energy.
Right.
Put that time card in. You got to use that
What does that do?
Yeah, we got to put that same energy into this vote right now, man. Can I come pick it up? Yeah, you got to go down there and go pick it up. And if you can't pick it up, you gotta be on the phone like that. You gotta turn that in, right? We gotta have the same energy that we have to turn in a time card on voting right now. And I think that'll do it, because when you ready to get your check or you worked your hours and you like, yo, I want to make sure you got what I sent you, then you know all the things to do to make sure that that's secure. You're not gonna wait to the last minute. You're not gonna let the clock pass you up. You're gonna get it done. And right now, everybody gotta go get it done. And I love that you have to be the captain of your own ship. You can't worry about nobody else, and you can't wait to do this. And that was just going back to my last pitch was, we don't want another wave right now. We don't want all of a sudden another ship to come and everybody go that way. Like, yeah, we want to do no, we want to focus right now on getting the land, which is voting November, October, really getting your ballots in and really going to work to get this election done the right way.
Yeah, I'm liking this energy right now. So if you had to just use one call to action to engage voters of all ages, all genders, all races and nationalities to come out and vote in November and in their local elections, what would it be?
I think Puffy had it right, vote or die. That would be my slogan right now, vote or die, man, because you're gonna die. You might not physically die, but we talking about like there's a lot of deaths ahead of us, man, if we don't figure this out right away, based on the fact that if you watch what it is, look, and I'll be honest with everyone on this platform right now, whenever you have kids that are at school understanding that a red Make America Great hat can spark a fight, and they're wearing them in droves and wearing them in the classes and trying to, it's bad. So vote or die, and we want humanity to live. So I would go back to what Puffy had a few years ago. Although we have Woke.Vote, my slogan would be vote or die right now.
I'd have to say be the change.
That's great. That was a good one.
Thanks.
Even though they didn't applaud you, that was
Thank
good.
you.
I like that.
You stand up and be the change. Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, it's good. He liked it.
As long as you're telling people to get out and vote, it's always going to be good.
I mean, because I'm loving all of that, man, but in 2020, I feel like vote or don't complain.
I like that.
Yeah,
a whole lot of complaining going on. A lot of people see the issues that we're facing, from racism to the economy, to flat out just hate, right? And you talk about, as an athlete, I'm held to a former athlete now. I'm happily retired on this couch. But, you are held to a higher standard, right? And if I were to go out here and do anything, people would question my character. People put so much effort into that and very little into controlling what they can control and creating the change that they can actually do, which is by voting and the way they live their life and the way they interact with people. So to me, man, that's getting old. We know what's at stake. We know what's on the line. Vote. That's it. Vote or don't complain, because I know for one, I'm not even entertaining it at this point.
Yeah.
I'm changing mine to that too. I'm changing mine to vote and complain.
Su voto es su voz, right? Your vote is your voice. It's the most precious American right that you have. And typically I'd say that's the motto, register and vote, because your vote is your voice. But I gotta tell you, this isn't conceptual. People are dying. Family members are dying. People are getting sick. People are losing their jobs. Kids don't have Wi-Fi to go to school. So for me, I'd say in this moment, the only cure for COVID-19 is to vote.
Thank you all for participating in this panel, such a necessary panel. And I hope that whoever watches this feels empowered, inspired, and ready to not complain by getting up and going to vote. Thank you all.